Hi, today we are going to be discussing social movement. So, what exactly is social movement? It is related to the natural resistant social process that is related to social mobility. What this implies is that it is a resistance by a society to a particular change caused by the government or any other ruling body. So, what does it mean? It means that it needs to have a goal and a plan, and the society as a whole needs to be involved. A particular human being or a solo effort is not classified as a social movement. Now, where does it originate, right? Um, the origination of it lies in the mob. So, a group of people who gather together without any prior plan to discuss issues of concern is called a mob. This mob, if it goes in the positive direction, leads to a social movement. But if it takes a negative turn, it leads to things like mob violence, where the negative constituents of the mob take precedence, take charge, and cause damage. This type of mob violence then needs the police and the army or other law forces to stop it, to put an end to the violence. Now that we know what exactly social movement is and how does it originate, we can discuss major environmental movements. Environmental movements are basically a subcategory of social movements, but they are more of a slow burn. What that implies is that they are not a reactionary movement. They're not caused immediately. They develop over a long period of time by sustained encroachments upon the environment. So, for instance, one of them will be the Jharkhand Mukti Morcha of 1973. This was formed in 1973. It's a political party that has its origin in the mistreatment of tribal people, their displacements, and their inability to use the local resources because of mining companies and government policies. So this party was formed in Jharkhand. It still exists. It's an agrarian party, which means that it focuses on agricultural issues, on issues related to land, on environment, etc. And their motto basically is that to allow anyone, they have a social outlook, and anyone who's a peasant, youth, activist, downtrodden, etc., is welcome to their party according to the party website. So, from here we can see that some of these movements can lead to long term effects like formation of parties. Another such example is the formation of the Aam Aadmi Party, which which has its origin in the 2012 protests uh, uh, for in Delhi for the Jan Lokpal bill led by Anna Hazare, and a small offshoot of that major social movement is the Aam Aadmi Party. So what we've discussed is that usually these environmental movements, they have a long-standing back history before they accumulate, before they finally converge into a bigger movement. One another such movement is the Chipko movement of 1974 in the Tehri Garhwal district in Uttarakhand, which was then a part of Uttar Pradesh. So even though this movement was in 1974, it has its origin in 1730 AD, where the Bishnoi tribe, which is a small tribal people that are very, very attached to the environment, and they hold environmental protection at its utmost level in their society. So the Bishnoi people, 363 people of their community, sacrificed their life to save the Khejri trees. So that is the backdrop of the Chipko movement. And over the period of time, this movement has developed, and finally accumulated into this movement, the Chipko movement. So what is the backdrop? So initially in the Uttarakhand region, there was widespread deforestation. The trees were getting cut for commercial purposes without any thought given towards the environmental impact, also, which led to widespread flooding, landslides, etc. And it caused the major flood in 1970, which was the Alkananda flood, which was in the river Alkananda. Also, one of the major factors was that the results for the commercial activity for which reforestation was happening was not reaping benefits for the local people. Even though construction was happening, the local people weren't getting involved in it, weren't getting employment in it. So they were having to face all the harms without getting any of the compensation or any of the benefits. It also led an influx of people from the plains in the mountain areas, which caused more strain on the local flora and fauna of the region. So, this was the backdrop. This was the background activity that was happening. So, this led to the Chipko movement. Now, what exactly was the movement? Was that a group of people, mostly led by women, went around and they hugged the trees and they did not allow the contractors to chop down the trees, and eventually after 4 days of standoff the contractors had to retreat. They could not cut the trees, and this inspired people in other areas of Uttarakhand to do the same, and eventually the tree felling was not able to happen, right? So this was the immediate goal, immediate effect and immediate goal of the movement. But it didn't just stop there. It caused long-term effects. It caused a major change in policy. The Indira Gandhi government banned tree felling for 15 years in that area. The women in the area were empowered. They felt more in control of the region that they lived in, because it was a female-led movement, and it eventually led to other movements like the Beej Bachao Andolan. One such movement that it inspired was the Apiko movement in Karnataka, which was led by Panduranga Hegde. So again, what is the backdrop? Backdrop was deforestation again. There was a very focused commercial deforestation policy in Karnataka at that time. It reduced the forest cover to just 25% of its original. So can you imagine, only 25% of the trees in the area were remaining, everything else had been chopped down. And why were they being cut? They were being cut for stuff like paper, plywood and power. All of this was resulting in widespread poverty of the local people in the area and causing long-term environmental effects like soil erosion and the drying up of water. And that also perennial water, that means it would cause long-term lack of water, drinking water in the region. So the youth in that area mobilized, and particularly the Yuvak Mandali, they spread this movement all across Western Ghat and not just to this particular district of Salyani, and they were eventually successful in changing the forest policy of the region. This was in 1983. Similarly, we had the Save Silent Valley movement. Silent Valley was a place in Kerala, and they planned on creating a dam which would submerge more than 50% of the valley, which contained tropical forest and flora and fauna unique to that particular area. So obviously that was very detrimental to the environment, and by protest the dam construction was eventually dismissed. Similarly, we had the Narmada Bachao Andolan, which was also against the construction of a dam, particularly the Sardar Sarovar project. It was led by Medha Patkar. So the backdrop of this particular Andolan was that the government of India was planning on constructing this major dam on the Narmada river, which did displace 250,000 people, and no proper compensation was planned for them. The local people were also not consulted in the assessment, during the assessment period of the construction of the dam. So whenever there's an environmental project that's happening, there needs to be an environmental assessment that takes place on the ground to judge the negative effects, the pros and cons of that particular project. So that wasn't done properly in this case. So when Medha Patkar found out, she led this Andolan. Andolan means a movement. She led this social movement to prevent the construction of this dam. So she went on a 36-day march, and she also went on a 20-day long fast. But eventually this dam was eventually constructed. Coming back from North India, from the Narmada Bachao Andolan to Karnataka, we had the Coastal Karnataka Environment Movement, in which the people of Mangalore opposed the Mangalore Refineries and Petrochemical Limited, which it was a refinery that discharged lots of harmful chemicals into the Arabian Sea, causing dangerous pollution in the coastal area. This movement again opposed the establishment of the Nandikuri Thermal Power Plant or the Udupi Thermal Power Plant, which is actually inside a national park, inside the Kudremukh National Park. So that is one major factor of how it could have really negative environmental impact. And this movement also opposed special economic zones. So why did it oppose special economic zones? This is a very widely conflict causing policy wherein the government of India, to promote economic activity and trade, allows for more infrastructural projects and rapid granting of permissions to go on with these projects. So the major part that causes a lot of uproar is the Land Acquisition Act, wherein the government of India can seize anyone's land without providing them proper compensation. It's forceful seizing of the land, and the person does not have their cannot express their will or cannot hold back the land even though it belongs to them. One more such movement again from Karnataka was the Kaiga Nuclear Power Plant opposition movement. The goal of the movement was to oppose the construction of the Kaiga Nuclear Power Plant because, first of all, the construction of it would have led to vast deforestation, cutting down of a lot of trees, and it would have created a threat of nuclear radiation, just like in Chernobyl, where any leak could have had long-standing effects. But eventually the nuclear power plant was constructed. This, we conclude our discussion on environmental social movements. We've looked at multiple non-violent social environmental movements that have shown the way in independent India. These movements have led to long-term changes in government policies and outlook of people, and have inspired people of multiple regions across multiple time periods.